I stared at my shaking hands, the scrolling white glare of my phone screen reflected in the lacquered wood I'd been sanding all morning. "Look at this clown," the voice on the video snickered, barely pausing between bites of his burger. Every second my own face stared back at me, awkward, hopeful, clear-eyed, captured at my booth on the last day of the street fair. The video played on. "You really think people want to buy these guitars when you can get a real Fender for half the price?" Laughter. "Handmade, sure, as in homemade, like my aunt's Halloween costumes." He picked up one of my early archtop prototypes, traced the curls of the F-hole with a grease-smeared finger, made a show of turning it over as if to check for a secret, embarrassing flaw. "He barely knows his own wiring inside," someone off-screen jeered. "Maybe artisan is code for can't get a real job." I couldn't keep my thumb from replaying the clip, searching for the moment, the flicker in my eyes, the set of my jaw that let them know I'd heard every word. It had gone viral in a matter of hours. Countless comments poured in, laughing emojis, bad puns about string theory, gifs of collapsing junk piles, strangers tagging me simply to gloat. It was ridiculous, maybe laughable. But in the echo chamber of my apartment, one room above the exhaust-choked alley by MacArthur Park, the words ricocheted and gathered weight, settling on my back like bags of quick-drying cement. I cancelled the next day at the fair. My mother's text came first, "Saw the video, ignore them, Hijo." She followed it with, "Maybe if you try for guitar store they need workers, no shame in that," then a steady silence of 3 dots that never turned into words. The jokes followed me. My brother Diego forwarded memes made by local kids on our block. "Next time use something other than plywood." Neighbors who'd commissioned me to fix their broken chairs, their old ukuleles, suddenly they only waved politely, wary of being dragged into the online bonfire. I deleted my business page. I stopped answering calls, working by night on what scraps remained in my closet of a workspace. Months trickled by, each one colder, denser, greasier with stillness. I watched Diego's kids win soccer trophies and my sister's baby's first steps, pressed to the fringe of family gatherings, feeling as if my hands were stained with something that wouldn't wash out. Each visit home, the laughter grew quieter, edged with pity. They didn't mean to send me sideways glances as I arrived with glue stains on my jeans and the bank's rejection letters in my backpack, but they did, and I felt every one. I lived in absence, nursing little wounds. Still, my hands itched for wood, my body moved on old routines, selecting spruce from salvage yards, negotiating for seconds of maple, sorting them by grain and resonance. I kept a battered journal of design oddities and scribbled scale lengths between receipts for $5 strings. I pressed my ear to every belly and back, learned, adapted, built. At one point, a friend's dad, Rafael Morno, brought me a ruined requinto from somewhere in Sonora. His words were soft from smoke and tequila. "Once it sang," he said, tracing the cracked top. "Now it's just old wood. Make it new again and maybe people will listen." So I did. I worked till my knuckles bled and my neck ached. I took apart every piece, made new braces, thinned the top till it hovered on the edge of splitting. The sound it made was raw, darker than I expected, but it vibrated through the ribs. Raphael wept when he heard it. He took a video, this one kind, weathered, full of wonder, and sent it to his cousin who played in a mariachi group in Glendale. They called me in, asked if I could make their new set of guitars. I said yes, hands trembling. I traced the forms by hand, built jigs from old futon slats, sanded till the sweat pooled in the hollows of my back. If I failed again, so be it. I was used to loss. Bit by bit, word traveled. There was a guy, stubborn, hungry, crazy enough to build by hand, shaped for each player's sound. Mariachi Salazar's records got picked up on streaming radio, and listening to them, people noticed. "Sounds different," one comment read, "like the wood breathes." Slowly, guitarists from Oaxaca and Elysian Park turned up at my door, pushing a battered case with hope in their eyes. I kept my rates low and my standards higher still. Some months I ate ramen for days, but on the nights when I finally tuned up a finished instrument, hearing that first, trembling clear chord, the hollow ache in my ribs eased for a few breaths. Years turned, swallowing old shame in the work. My family grew, drifted, argued in the way of all families. Eventually, Diego reached out cautiously to ask if I'd look at his neighbor's Telecaster. Not to fix, just to see. "You still got that touch, maybe?" I said I'd see what I could do. Then one winter, out of nowhere, a friend called me screaming about a celebrity guitarist mentioning my work on KCRW. Video proof. A quick flash of my label on the inside of a redwood-bodied dreadnought, my phone overflowed. Orders from New York, New Orleans, Tokyo, Paris, names I barely recognized but had seen on album covers growing up. Suddenly, after years of daily knots in my gut, the demand was more than I could meet. I had the leverage to find a bigger space, finally drag my battered tools out of storage, hire a friend to help with sanding and setup. When I went to buy my mother a proper washer and dryer, she said quietly, "So you made something, Hijo," like all those years had hibernated inside, waiting. I read the emails out loud, felt the pride in my throat. But the thing about old wounds is they stay mapped in your skin, sore as ever. Then one hazy March, I was invited to bring a few instruments to a new LA music festival, Bridges. Even with my unlikely reputation, I nearly said no. Last time I'd set up a booth, the world had laughed me out of the square. The memory of that viral video was a knot in my lung, but the world turns. I agreed, carting 5 of my best builds across town, the city dark and reflexively hostile at the hour when only the fruit vendors and street sweepers were out. The festival was in Highland Park, under string lights in a narrow lot flanked by food trucks. Someone had prepared a standing exhibit, tastefully lit, with my name printed on a plaque. As I tuned the guitars, my hands steady for once, I heard murmurs, familiar voices, my mother in her careful English, Diego translating for cousins, my aunt glancing with half-disguised pride at the setup. Even the neighbor kids, now with phones of their own, filming my hands as I worked. And then, like in a movie, I noticed a familiar face at the edge, the guy from the old video. He looked older, softer at the edges, his hair thinning, eyes apologetic. He said nothing at first, just hovered with the crowd as a well-known session player, someone whose name everyone recognized, whose albums we played at family parties, took the archtop I'd built last fall. The guitarist strummed, then played a slow, slippery blues figure that rose into clean, golden harmonics. People shifted, swayed, drawn into the curve of the sound. He laughed aloud, eyes bright. "Thing plays like it's got its own lungs," he said into the mic. The crowd murmured, they clapped, hungry for more. He played a flamenco phrase, plucked with such biting clarity that you could hear every footfall, every whispered laugh from across nearly 100 gathered breaths. He stopped, looked up at me with a quick, genuine smile. "Who built this?" he asked. I stepped forward, unsure, my knees aching. "Seriously," he said, "you come here." Cheeks burning, I wiped my palms and stepped behind the table. He handed me the guitar. I played a single chord, trembling, but the sound leapt out, round and balanced, true. For 3 seconds, Los Angeles was summerlit and silent. I looked out and saw my family, old neighbors, faces turned and arrested. I saw my mother wiping her eyes, Diego's hands tight on his girlfriend's shoulders. The guitarist spoke again, clear, delighted, to hundreds of watching people and however many live streams were running. "If you don't already have one of these, my advice is get in line now. This is up there with the best I've played." The crowd pressed forward, clapping, whooping, people filming. Bottled up pride and relief ran hot through my arms. I shook the guitarist's hand, feeling the old shame wrinkle shrink in the face of real, simple music. Afterward, amidst the glow of traffic lights and paper plates balanced on laps, my mother pulled me into a fierce, wiry hug. "You brought something from nothing, Hijo," she whispered. My brother, always the first for a joke, tilted his phone so I could see a text thread. "Whole block is talking. Even Tia Lucia says you're the guitar doctor now." He grinned, sheepish, then quietly added, "Sorry man, we didn't see it before." The guy from the video lingered near the back, hands deep in his windbreaker. He caught my eye, nodded apologetically. "You showed us," he mumbled, voice small. "Didn't expect it, sorry for everything." I searched his face, felt pain, the old, hard years, the sting of ridicule, but I found myself tired of anger. I nodded, "It's okay." The truth was, looking at him, I felt nothing but a sense of distance, the space between who I had been and who I'd become. As the crowd wandered off, Diego stood beside me, arms folded, gaze gentle. "You coming back home more now?" he asked. I watched my instruments, each one claimed by hands eager to play. I thought of the long nights of loss and small, slow repairs. A warm breeze drifted up from Figueroa, carrying food, smoke, laughter, the thrum of city life. For the first time in years, my shoulders dropped, my chest open. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Yeah, I think I ams." Later, as we loaded out, my mother and Diego helped pack up the cases. The family gathered around the car, chatting about future projects, spreading word of more interested buyers. It all felt new, possible. In the reflection of my rearview mirror, the music festival lights glimmered like tiny fires. My hands, long derided, once so clumsy and anxious, rested easy on the steering wheel. But even as the applause faded and the city's noise returned, I found myself thinking back to the panels of raw spruce, the hungry years, the cost and the ache. Memories of ridicule stayed, sharp at the edges but duller in the center, not erased, only made irrelevant by the proof of creation. At home, I unpacked my tools and notebooks, washing my hands slowly in the kitchen sink. My mother watched, slicing oranges for the table, her face lit by a piece I hadn't seen in a lifetime. I heard laughter in the next room, Diego's kids challenging each other with rolls of masking tape, and I felt finally a part of something that had always waited for me, something earned, rebuilt, and new. When late that night I traced the calluses on my left hand under the moonlight, I realized redemption had not erased the old pain so much as joined it, knitting back loss into a shape I could bear. My father's old red radio played a soft corrido, filling the silence with possibility. The world, messy and beautiful, had opened just enough for me to return, hands whole, music pouring from every scar.